I need a little breathing room when I'm feeling crowded in the city. Need a little green and blue when I'm feeling tired and gray. Oh, I need that sweet perfume when I'm feeling maddened by the city. A place of deep refuge from the loneliness of my days. A place for the tired and worn to come and rest by the water. A place for the spirit that's torn by the weariness of life. A place for the old to be reborn, to come and rest by the water beneath the hemlock and the hawthorn, free from stress and strife. So we'll make a little breathing room for those who are crowded in the city. Leave a little green blue for those who are tired and gray. Just a little sweet perfume for those who are maddened by the city. A place of deep refuge, a place of deep refuge, a place of deep refuge from the loneliness of their days.
Hello, everybody. It's Katie Dahl Has Friends, and it's time for the theme song.
Katie.
Katie.
Katie Dahl.
Katie Dahl.
Katie Dahl has friends.
Ooh, she has friends.
Yes, she does. She's got a friend in me.
And she's got a friend in you.
You know that, Katie.
Katie.
Katie Dahl.
Katie Dahl.
Katie Dahl has friends.
Katie Dahl has friends.
Yeah.
Yay! Thanks to LaCrissa Granberry and Ava Nimmer, who recorded that theme song for me. I'm very excited about our episode tonight. We've got my friend, the author and artist Juliet Menéndez is going to come and talk to us shortly. First, I'm going to sing a song. While you are listening to me sing, if you would not mind clicking like or love on this video, that will help the little robots inside the Facebook web understand that it is important for other people to see it. If you write a comment saying where you are from, I would love to know where you're watching from. You might think to yourself, Katie Dahl already knows where I'm watching from, but the thing is, I don't know that you're on because I just, unless you put a comment, I don't know. So I would love to know. And also, that's all. No, that's all I need to know. I did want to say though, it just feels very fresh as a native Minnesotan. This the Derek Chauvin verdict that came today feels very fresh, and it feels important to me to acknowledge it. Of course, I'm glad that the correct verdict was reached. And I just would like to say that I grew up in Minnesota thinking of us as sort of, a not a racist place, and I thought of myself as a one of the good white people who lived with all the other good white people. And I just would like us all to consider, all of my fellow white folks to consider in the wake of this, the ways in which we live in the system too, and empower it, and look for the work we can do within the system, and not to just sit in a comfortable feeling that justice has been done, but to sort of sit in the discomfort to the extent that we can. So I just wanted to say that before we get started. I met our guest Juliet on a study abroad program via Carleton College, and I did not write this next song when I was on the study abroad program with Juliet, but I did write it when I was on a different study abroad program. So it seems to me that it's the most relevant song I could sing to open the show. This is about, I studied abroad in Mali in West Africa, and this is sort of has a lot of proverbs that I learned there. And it's also about missing home. So here we go. I set out on a morning road. I set my teeth against the chill. When I found that I had lost my way, I set my sights on the homeward hill. I cried home, 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 all day. Tell me, are the things I learned so far from you worth what I forget when I'm away? I set out on the morning road. I set my stone into the stream in hopes that it would learn to flow. I left it for 100 years, and never it became a boat. It just cried home, 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 all day. Tell me, are the things I learned so far from you worth what I forget when I'm away? I set my stone into the stream. I walked into the desert dry. I waited for the clouds to burst. When the rains made that river wide, I found that I had loved my thirst. I sang home, 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 all day. Tell me, are the things I learned so far from you worth what I forget when I'm away? I walked into the desert dry. I set out on the morning road. I set my sights upon that hill. I set out for a little while, walking still. When the night comes, I'll be walking still. When the night comes, I'll be walking still. Woo! All right. Hello to my dad and to Margot and to Dorothy and to Jen and to Bagley. Very excited to see you all here. And now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our special guest, Juliet Menéndez. Come on to the screen. Hello.
Hi.
We have talked to each other for literally 20 seconds in the last 20 years, and I'm so excited.
Oh my God, it's true. It's true.
Yeah. Tell us where you're joining us from tonight.
So I'm in Guatemala City, where I've been living for some years now. I don't even know how many. I'm not good at keeping track of like time. But yeah, I've been here for a while.
Yeah. And you have a new book out, but we'll talk about that. You and I met in college.
Yes.
Yes. And I don't really remember, like, to me, you were sort of like, you sort of just existed in the sort of like world of our little social world before we went to London together at the beginning of our sophomore year, which is when we really got to know each other.
Right.
Like, do you have any specific memories of us meeting, or it just sort of like happened at some point, right?
My memory is generally very fuzzy these days. I don't know what's happening to me, but I do have a memory that I think it was Meg who introduced us, who was another friend, and she was like, "You have to meet this incredible person, Katie Dahl," and and I think we went over to meet you. Somehow you were living in Goodhue or something, like your freshman year. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. And I have a memory of her being like, "You have to meet this incredible person." And then we met you, and you were an incredible person. By the way, I can't believe that you wrote that song in college. That's beautiful. That's really impressive.
Oh, thanks. I didn't write it in college. I wrote it about college, but like after the fact. My songs in college were all very derivative and sad. So I feel I like never play them in public.
I feel you. I feel that way about some of my art from that time too.
Do you really? Like, I have such amazing memories. I mean, you don't have to feel that way about all of it, I guess, but I just have, like, I remember your art. I mean, I wrote this on social media, but I really mean it. I remember just loving your work in college, and I feel so much that I see the through line of your sort of style. You know, I can recognize your work now. It feels to me like, does that seem like a true statement to you, or am I inventing?
I mean, kind of. I think that it took me a while to find the style I'm using in illustration. It's different from, how you would approach a painting per se. So I think my style is a little bit different, but also I was really influenced by so many other artists in college. So I think that I was still definitely trying to find my voice. So that's why.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, speaking of illustration, maybe we should tell them now what about your amazing new book, Latinitas. Can you tell us about this?
That's so sweet. So this is a book that has really been in the process of being made for a long time, as are most things, I think, ends up coming to be finally. So it really started when I was working in New York as an art teacher in Upper Manhattan. I was working with students that came from families that were mainly from the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Mexico, and I would walk through the halls and I would think to myself, the posters up on these walls are of people like Benjamin Franklin, Einstein, and Dali. And what if there were some people up on these walls who looked like my students? So I started this whole thing out as a poster project, really. And I started creating these little posters. My niece, Lucia, has them. They're original posters that I made as a collection. But, you know, originally I was thinking of making it about both men and women, just, you know, representative of my students more. But as I was researching Latinx history, there were these very important stories that were missing, which were the stories of women. And so, yeah, you know, that definitely brought out the feminist in me. And I decided to dedicate this book to celebrating Latina women. And I also felt that their stories really need to be such a big part of it. It couldn't just be posters. So that's how the book came to be.
And it's so, folks, if you are not one of the lucky people who owns this book yet, you should become one. But let me just show you how it works. There are 40 stories, right? And there's oopsies, I'm backwards. There's a picture, and then there's a little sort of a biography of each person, and there are people from all different walks of life. So there are singers and writers and spies and Supreme Court justices, and I just I love this so much, and was so pleased to get my copy. Tell me, I can see now that you say that it was started as a poster project. I was wondering about, I was noticing that these so much could stand on their own. Like the pictures tell such stories in themselves. You know, they're not just, you know, portrait likenesses. They all have relevant things in them to give you clues to, you know, right, to what the different women did. So as you started to get the idea to put the words in there, or the stories in there, did the posters, did the pictures stay the same? They're paintings, right? Is that they're
yeah, I painted them with watercolor paints.
Okay.
So you're asking, did I change the pictures to kind of match the stories?
Or did the paintings sort of stay the same as they were in poster form, or did they change?
Yeah, they actually changed a lot, which was a big surprise to both my editor and agent. When the first ones came together with the stories, they were like, "These aren't the same illustrations that you sold the book with." I was like, "I know, but please bear with me." Yeah, so by the way, I'm seeing that someone asked about this pulsing light.
Yes.
It's a candle. And if it's bothering you, I'm happy to turn it off. Is that?
It does not bother me, Jen. You let us know if.
Okay, because if it is, I forgot about it. I put it on to relax.
I think it's very beautiful and ambient and lovely. So. Keep it up, pulsing candle. But Jen, if you would like no pulsing light, I'll blow it. It shall be gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were asking about the illustrations and if they changed, and I was saying they did. And part of the reason that they changed is because in the original ones, it was super didactic in a way. Because I was a teacher at the time, I made them more like little kids. They were always little children, the way they are in the book, which was something that was really important to me because I wanted my students to get a sense that these amazing things that you can do, these contributions you can have to society, start out as really small things that are your passions, your interests, things you're discovering along the way. So I always had them as children, but they were doing a specific activity, and it was always very literal, they're drawing buildings, they're an architect or like that. In my initial, well, it wasn't quite like that, but it was much more like that along those lines. And I wanted these illustrations, especially because I was expanding them to include things like activists, congresswomen, you know, Supreme Court justices, that it wasn't always such a clear path. She was holding a paintbrush when she was little and became an artist, you know. So I thought, how can I express something about what they loved as a child, but also bring together what what that later became in some way, give like a hint to how that became their profession as an adult. So they changed a lot. They became a little bit more magical too. I don't know exactly how that just happened, I guess. I guess when I was thinking about them being dreamers. So yeah, it changed a lot from the original posters.
I love that. I'm remembering this about you, that like I feel like a lot of times one of the things that I enjoy the most about talking to you is I feel like a lot of times you like things are mysterious to you and you're like, I don't know. They changed a lot and I don't know how it happened. And I feel like that is such a great a great artist's perspective. Like, and I totally identify as a songwriter. Sometimes I feel like things suddenly are different, and I wasn't aware of the process, of the change. Always, it's sort of like there's an agency or something that exists outside of, I don't know, exists in the work in a weird way. So I want to talk more about that process, but first I want to know, did you prepare any hot chocolate with cinnamon?
Yes, I did. It's right here.
Yeah, yay. I prepared mine. I made my first ever. I have never made hot chocolate from scratch before, which is sort of appalling. I've always used a mix.
Oh.
And so I know. So I was like, I'm going to make a real hot chocolate from scratch. And so I kept it in this thermos so that it wouldn't be lukewarm by the time I got to whip it out. So, yes, Juliet chose this drink. Is it a favorite of yours?
Yes, it's very traditional here in Guatemala to have hot chocolate with cinnamon, and you put together cinnamon sticks. And we actually got one of the weirdly beneficial things of this pandemic was that we got in touch with local vendors to get us our food when the grocery stores in the beginning had absolutely nothing, and we were like, I think doesn't your uncle have a contact with like this mango, I don't know, they have mangoes, like chocolate, cheese. We were like looking for everything. So we actually got this huge block of cacao, like pure cacao. So we've been making hot chocolate from that.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's anyway.
That sounds much better than my Hershey's cocoa powder, but this is also very delicious, I do have to say. Oh.
I love Hershey's cocoa powder too.
Yeah, what's not to love? Very good. I'm glad that you encouraged me to. You didn't even say that I had to make my own hot chocolate, but I just felt that you have to bring your classy A game when talking to Juliet, so I thought
not at all.
Do it. No, you never make me feel like I have to, but I always just feel like you're always such a class act, and I want to.
That's very sweet of you. I wouldn't necessarily say that, but that's sweet of you.
Let the people believe. She's always classy, team. Always. But I did want to say, I usually say when we do the snack, that if you folks would like to tip tonight, you may. This is how you tip, and we'll split them after we give 10% to Races. Is that how you pronounce it, Juliet?
I would say raíces because it's like roots.
Oh, cool. And I had been a little bit familiar with this organization from a couple of years ago, but can you tell us what it is / why you picked it?
Oh, I should have looked this up more because I haven't looked it up for a while, but they're advocating for children at the border specifically, and families, to give them kind of at least a fair attempt at entering this country. So yeah, it's really advocates for everyone at the border.
Yeah. Great. So we'll give 10% of proceeds first to them, and then so there you go. That's the information on ye old tips. Jen says she thinks you can put that cacao in your coffee too.
Ooh, that sounds very nice. I like that idea.
Yeah. So I was wondering about the process of this, of creating this book. I asked Guthrie, my son. I can't believe I haven't talked to you since I have a kid, but I have a 5-year-old.
I know. He looks adorable, by the way.
Thank you. He's he's very adorable most of the time. And I I asked him, we've been reading your book, and I asked him what he wanted me to ask you. I said, do you have any questions that I should ask? And he said, that's a lot of writing. And I was like, well, it's not really a question, but I was wondering, like, how long has this process been since you had that poster? How long has it been since you were teaching in New York, for example?
Yeah, so that poster project was in 2014. So that feels like forever ago, but a lot of things happened in between. I mean, this project was always important to me since then, if that makes any sense. But, I had to work to, live. And I had a lot of things in the meantime. It kind of was a little bit of a side project until I was able to find this agent who happens to be Adriana Dominguez, and she's from Uruguay, and she's been so supportive. And once she got on board, she was really encouraging me to do the writing and to solidify the list of women that would be included and things like that. So once I really started with that, it became like the job that I had became my side job, and I just wasn't sleeping. So I think all in all, I did start in 2014, but since it got a little bit pushed to the back burner, it really took about 2.5 years to put it together.
Yeah. Wow. And did you find that you had did you have to do a lot of winnowing from your potential list? Like, did you find that you had way more people to pick from than you could accommodate?
Definitely. This book was never intended to be comprehensive at all. So, but I really wanted to be as inclusive as possible. And at the same time, include a lot of different professions and backgrounds. And so it also meant that I had to be a little bit exclusive at the same time to fit it into a book and not create this enormous tome. So, make it actually something children could hold and, not like lug around. So it was there could be so many more books like this, and I really hope that other people might be inspired to write them as well, or maybe I'll make a second one, we'll see, but or many more. But yeah, there were a lot of difficult decisions to make in terms of who's on the list.
Yeah, I bet. And I bet I have been really noticing how would you feel if I read one of these? I don't have what I wanted to say, I will read one, I think, if it's okay with you. Is it okay with
sure.
You? Okay.
Of course, it's your show.
Well, it's true, it's my show, but it's your book. I wanted to say that I really admire, well, I'm going to let people encounter this on their own, and then they can, I will tell them what I admire about it after they express it on their own. Is there a particular one that you would think I should read to the people if... Or should I pick?
I guess if there's one that stood out to you in particular, I often choose to read Gumercinda Payes. I don't know, her story just inspires me. Do you have any idea what
page she's on?
You know what? I don't know. I really love them all. I often read that one to students just because I feel like her story gives them an idea of how they could start out if they were going into something as abstract as Congress, which is hard to imagine. Her page is 23.
23. Okay. All right.
But you could really read any of them if you want.
No, that's the one I'm going to read. This is great. Here's the picture, everybody. Oops, I'm sorry that it's so dark. How can I make it lighter? Come on, lighten up. Beautiful. Okay, that's not ideal. Oh, there we go. That's better. Okay, can you say her name again?
Gumercinda Payes.
Okay, Gumercinda grew up in a neighborhood where everyone worked long days and long nights and still couldn't make ends meet. Even so, the upper-class Panamanians often treated the people around her with contempt for being poor. Should you be reading this instead of me? I didn't occur to me.
However you want. I'm happy to read it if you prefer.
It's okay. I'll keep going. Okay. If only they knew what it was really like, Gumercinda thought. And at only 10 years old, she came up with a way. Ya sé, I can write plays about our lives. Getting her neighbors and amigos to act out the parts, Gumersinda put on play after play. But the only people singing Gumersinda's plays were her own neighbors. How will I get these plays to the rest of Panama, she wondered. When she grew up and became a teacher, Gumersinda came up with a plan. She could make her plays into radio novellas and ask her students to be the actors. Before long, stories of fathers forced to leave their families for work, single mothers making incredible sacrifices, grandmothers working well into their old age, and children working when they should have been in school were seen all across Panama. The upper classes finally saw what life was really like for most people, and Gumersinda's community finally got a chance to feel understood. In only a few years, Gumersinda wrote 34 radio novellas. Gumersinda decided to run for office, and not only became the first Black woman to win, she got elected as the vice president of the Constitutional Assembly, too. Coming into politics right after the political coup of 1941, she helped draft Panama's new constitution, and the very issues at the center of her radio novellas became the pillars of her work. She fought for and won equal pay for women, public daycare for children, paid maternity leave, and the recognition of Afro-Latinx rights. And she didn't stop there. Gumersinda traveled all over Latin America defending human rights. Now there is an award given every year in her name to women who carry on her incredible legacy. So what I admire so much about these biographies is how succinct they are, and how, like, I'm sure that they're not comprehensive, if you can't be comprehensive in one page, but they feel so, they make me feel, they have such a great combination of like detail, like really specific detail, and then really broad strokes of like explaining what their life was. And somehow you manage to not get bogged down in the details of like, right after coming into politics, right after the political coup of 1941. It's like, we don't need to belabor what was the political coup of 1941. Like, just like, there was one, which I didn't know, but now I do know because it just refers to the political coup. I just admire, I feel like it must have been so much work to figure out how to pack that all in to a page. Was that hard, or was that not as hard as I think?
Well, it's so sweet of you to notice that. And yeah, it was hard. My partner loves writing things on Post-it notes. And I was like, my head was exploding. He was like, I think you need to use the Post-it note method and just like work with rearranging them and figuring out which anecdotes you can use, and coming up with a way to do this. And yeah, it was really hard because there are so many things, especially as a teacher, you feel like you want to explain some of these things, like, what am I talking about? What is a political coup? But at the same time, I was like, yeah, a teacher would explain that. And if they want, they can talk to a parent or a teacher to figure that out. Whereas it's not the story in itself. So trying to figure out what it was that actually made the story from that spark or that little seed that grew into something that these women did when they were adults. That was really what I focused on. And it kind of helped me weed out a lot of things that I found personally fascinating. And as a nerd, I would have loved to include all of them. Like, oh my God, she did this thing. And I would like write a whole paragraph about it and then read it later and be like, that's kind of more from me. I love this detail. And I'm sure other people would love it too. I mean, there could be entire volumes written on these women. But at the same time, making it accessible to children and really focusing on that little spark was what made them able to be concise.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really do feel like they're so accessible. Like, I feel, I don't know what ages you were intending for this, but like having a 5-year-old, I feel like no problem, like, I
wow.
think he really, he's really interested. He kept saying one more. It was bedtime.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, he really liked him. And I said, this one was a spy really? Like, I was very excited about the spy.
That's so cute.
Yeah. So I think you really achieve that. And of course the pictures help so much. I think like there's so much to discover in any of the paintings. Which, by the way, I don't know anything about art, but I can't believe these are watercolors. I think of watercolors as such a more like less hard lines, I guess.
Less precise,
Yeah.
probably too. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So I never learned watercolor technique, if in all honesty. I'm not sure how to do it. And I'm really inspired by printmaking. So I wanted these kind of solid blocks of colors. At the same time, what I really love about watercolors is the textures you can get. And I know it's maybe a little bit hard to see in the book, but there are those textures there. And kind of there's these watercolors that I use that just have such warm colors. And I honestly didn't even mean to buy them. They were super expensive and in a glass case in the art store. And I was only there to warm up when I was in New York. And I was literally...
This is what I mean. I don't know how it happened. It just happened. Like
Well, it did. I like watercolors, but I used to use, what are they, like colorful inks, like so that it would have the flat colors, which makes a lot of sense. And I just popped into the art store to warm up. And I think I was staring at this beautiful glass case of watercolors, like, I don't know, like a child in a candy store or something. And someone came around and was like, do you want me to open this for you? And I don't know if it was just being embarrassed that I was like fogging up the glass. I felt like I was in, I don't know, like a Charlie Brown cartoon or something. And I was like, yes, I would like you to open it. And he was like, well, which colors would you like? And I just picked like 4 of my favorite ones. I didn't have enough money to buy them, but when I took them home, I thought I should go back and return them. Like, this is ridiculous. But as soon as I tried them, I just loved the color so much. And they reminded me of Guatemala. I was in New York in the winter and I was just like, these colors, they remind me of the palette of Guatemala, like the street murals and the painted buildings and the painted signs for restaurants, like the menus that are painted on the walls and things like that. And I just kind of had to have this. So I saved up to get a few more colors, and those became the colors of this book.
Wow. Amazing. And like, is it one, okay, so here's my experience with watercolors. The kind that you get for your child that that are come in the little plastic tin, like how big did you have to get multiple sets of these to create this whole book? Or
not
like
really, they're like these tiny tubes. I wish I had them next to me, but I'm at my parents' desk. They're these little tubes. They're not the little like circles that you get for children's watercolors. So those are very good too. And if you keep applying water and getting more and more paint, it can be really intense colors too. But I like those little tubes probably because I paint with them more like not watercolor paints. They're yeah.
So is it like a super concentrated something that you squeeze out of there and then you put water in there?
It's like a very concentrated pigment. And they look, just so to give you an idea, the paintings look like this when I'm done. They don't have a background yet. And I did paint the background by hand, but since I was doing 40, my agent and editor were like, well, what are some things that you could possibly do to help this go a little faster? I'm like, here, these are my brushes, which are super, super tiny. I don't know, you probably can't even see the bristle. Yeah. And so they were like, I get that you do this by hand and I think it's beautiful, but like, what are there ways we can help? I was like, no, but I can start doing things in a way that make a little bit more sense. So I stopped doing the backgrounds of each one and just painted like backgrounds and then would combine them in Photoshop.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That was like my one concession.
Your concession. Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, yeah. And so then what would you have what will you do with the originals of these? Like your niece has the original poster series, right? But what will you do with these
I
beautiful
don't know.
things?
Right now they're in a box. I am making posters though, not of these original. I mean, yes, of these paintings, but not. I'm not doing anything with the originals. But I am making posters to have so that anyone who wants to put them up. I've gotten some some requests to be able to put up posters. So I'm hoping that that I can get that out there soon. I'm trying to figure out how to print it from Guatemala.
Yeah. Cool. And so do you, like, after spending so much concentrated time on this one very time
consuming yes,
though slightly less time consuming after you made the concession, one project, do you feel like burned out of working, or of this particular kind of working, or do you want to turn your attention to something different, or how does your artistic mind feel?
Yeah, I was exhausted when I was done with this book. Like when I sent off the final illustrations, I think I pretty much just collapsed. It was like right at the beginning of the pandemic. It was the very last weeks, or like last couple of weeks, that I needed to hand everything in was when the pandemic started. And I had actually cut myself off from all the news, everything. I'm usually a huge podcast news person. I'm listening all the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to books on audio, like on the Libro FM. I'm just going to listen. I'm going to be in my own world and finish these illustrations. And I had a talk with my agent like a week after everything shut down in New York. And she was like, how are you doing with the pandemic? I was like, the pandemic? I was that much in like this hole of work. It's embarrassing actually. But yeah, so after that, I mean, just with everything that was happening at that time, I kind of just collapsed. And for sure, I did feel burnt out. But, luckily, there's quite a bit of time between when you hand everything in and the book actually comes out. So I didn't realize this, but it's about almost a year. And because of that, I was able to kind of recuperate, and I have different projects lined up, which, I have these authors waiting on me. I'm supposed to be doing illustration projects. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm working as fast as I can to finish Latinitas. And at the time when I finished, I was like, I don't even think I can look at like my drawing pencils or brushes for like a little while. But now I'm super excited to be working on those projects again. And I've been doing workshops with kids too and sharing this book. So I'm not sick of it because the kids are so inspiring. And I'm working on my first picture book, which I've never done before. So it's been really exciting more than anything. I feel like when I'm with my paints and brushes, I'm most myself. So it was really just a brief time that I just kind of needed to sleep and, I don't know, not do anything for a little while.
Yeah. Now, when you say you're working on your first picture book, what do you mean by picture book that is different than this?
So this is a middle grade book. It has pictures, but there's a specific picture book genre, which is, the books that you would have for more like Guthrie's age. This is actually pretty advanced. I'm impressed. But I'm not at all surprised that Guthrie is advanced. But yeah, so a picture book would be more from 5 to 7 and, has a picture on every page and very much smaller text than what would be in this book. Basically, one of these stories could be a picture book, like a full.
I see. Yeah, right. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Oh, exciting. And have you been doing these workshops with kids like all around the world? I mean, that's a cool thing. Like you're what are you, trilingual at least?
Yeah, I am. It has not been all around the world. It's really in the US through these wonderful organizations like An Open Book and Page Turners, Make Great Learners, I think is what it's called. I'm spacing out on the other names for some reason. And they've been school visits, but I'm working with An Open Book Foundation right now with a group of second graders. And it is kind of amazing. They're in Washington, D.C., and they're they're learning about community and how to, like these Latinitas, how to contribute to their own communities and imagine communities that they want and how they can make that happen. So yeah, it's kind of crazy that they're in DC and I'm here in Guatemala. And I get to actually be with them, which has, I've been able to talk with students in Chicago, in Texas. And I was supposed to do this tour and be in all of these places in person, which I kind of can't imagine now that I've done it all virtually, because it's kind of a lot virtually. And I can't imagine like literally traveling by plane to each of these places.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it would have been amazing and fun to meet everyone in person. But yeah, I have gotten a chance to do a lot of events that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah. Wow, so cool. And do you feel that your education in London of going to many plays with me and watching I Dream of Jeannie and drinking hard cider was a real important, integral part of your ability to create this book?
It was a very integral part of me being able to enjoy myself. That was the most fun I think I've literally ever had for a prolonged time. Those months in London were just amazing. And I can't believe that I was able to do that, especially considering that I'm not actually a theater person.
I know.
That's the most amazing part. Yeah, it was such an amazing, and I love that you remember I Dream of Jeannie. I was just thinking of that and thinking of those mornings, and I didn't remember the Weetabix. I remembered Rice Krispies. I'd have Rice Krispies and, oddly enough, hot chocolate every morning. So yeah, I love that. Little hotel was so funny too. It was like this,
so funny, and like we had our lounge was like a tiny basement, cell, right?
Yeah.
Like we could all hang out together in this like 10 by 10 basement room with no natural light. We watched You Are the Weakest Link. Goodbye. We watched that a lot. Do you remember that?
Oh, I kind of remember that, though. I did have to say I avoided that room a little bit. It kind of made me claustrophobic. I was more like, let's be outside. I was more likely to be found at that Indian restaurant. Well, it was hot chili.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
that was
good.
where I like to be, or the Goose, as you mentioned.
Yes, the Goose, our favorite pub. That was the first time in my life that I ate. Well, that's not really true. I was going to say it was the first time in my life I ate Indian food on a regular basis, but in Northfield, where we went to college, bizarrely, there was a really delicious Indian food restaurant. You would not expect that to exist, but there was. Yeah.
Yes, saved my life. Along with, oddly enough as well, in that tiny town, that Las Delicias, which was a Guatemalan restaurant of all things. It was like, I felt so out of place, and yet there was a Guatemalan restaurant. I was like, I can make it through. Like, it's good.
Did you feel out of place?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember that the freshman year in which you were talking about how we met. I basically spent that whole winter in my down coat, in my down comforter, like shiver. It's like, what did I choose? Yeah, no, I mean, I also loved all of my professors, and I met lovely people like you, but yeah, it was definitely a shock.
Yeah. Did it feel like a shock? I mean, it was a climate shock, but did it feel like a cultural shock also?
Yeah, I would say so. I've always lived in cities, first of all. So even just the transition from, being in a place like DC, which is where my mother lived, and my father has always lived in Guatemala City, and then being in Northfield. And I remember the first time that I came on a plane by myself, and there was a shuttle that took all the new students to Carleton. I was looking out the window, and of course the airport is in Minneapolis. So I was like, okay, Minneapolis, that looks like a city. And then as we go further out, I was like, there's corn and more corn and cows. Like, where am I going? And I had never seen Carleton before. So yeah, it was a big change. At the same time, it also kind of just felt like Northfield was Carlton. I don't know how to explain it, but because it was so tiny, it was basically like this little bubble that was the college. I'm sure people from Northfield don't feel that way, and I don't mean to offend them, but it just kind of felt like it was this special little magical place that everything was college. I don't know. It was kind of amazing too.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you study abroad besides London, or was
Yes,
yeah.
I went to an art program in Italy, which makes a lot more sense than the theater program in London. Yeah.
Right. I forgot that. What, and did you do that junior year?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Did
And you went to Mali, which
I
is
went
beautiful.
to Mali. Yeah. Yeah. And did you, I was also trying to remember, like, I don't have a lot of memories of you drawing or doing any art in London. Did you? Did you?
I had a little sketchbook that I was using at the time, but I don't know how much I shared that with other people. So you might not remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that it was like super secretive or something. I just kind of sketched little things. They were more like doodles and things like that.
Yeah. We probably had our own little private time. Like I was like writing in my journal, like, so many feelings about so many things. You were like, sketch.
Probably. That sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, I have so appreciated talking to you. Is there a particular, if folks wanted to buy your beautiful book, Latinitas, is there a particular, like retail, way that you would prefer them to buy it?
Oh, I always love to support independent booksellers, as probably most people do these days, hopefully. So, going to indiebound.org or bookshop.org is always a good way to find those independent bookstores if you don't already know them. But yeah, it's available really anywhere.
Anywhere books are sold, because it's a big deal. Because it's like, I can't believe it. It's like such a big deal, Juliet. Amazing.
So sweet of you.
I can't believe I slept 3 feet away from you for like months.
Well, I feel the same way. Look at all these songs you've been.
Yeah, well,
You've become like this amazing singer since we last met up.
well, yeah, I hadn't probably written any songs the last time I saw you, except for the aforementioned derivative sad ones. Matt Jabali, our friend, a previous Katie Dahl Has Friends guest, and our friend from London, who was part of our embarrassingly named Click, says, great show. I purchased a copy of the book to read with Veronica today. Would love to purchase a poster when available. I agree. I too would love to purchase a poster.
So sweet.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, hello to any of our other London friends out there watching. Yeah, I totally recommend it. If you want a tip, folks, don't forget, but you totally don't have to. Here it is. That's the deal. I didn't write them in the comments this time. I'm falling down on the job. But I do want to tell you that there's only 2 weeks of the show left. And by the time that I finish the run, or by the time we go on hiatus, because who knows if it might come back, I will have done this for 26 weeks, which is a full half of the year, right? And wow. So I know every single week it's been a really great lifeline of the pandemic. So next week, this has been the month of J's. Next week is the final J. That's my friend Jordan.
I remember.
Yeah, he came to London too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came to visit. And he works for Walt Disney Studios. And we are going to talk about, I know, excuse me, we're going to talk about the Oscars, which are happening on Sunday. So we're going to sort of debrief about the Oscars, which will be very fun. And then the following week, May 4th, will be the closing night of this session. And my friend Hope Dunbar, who is my fellow songwriter who I got stuck in Europe with when the pandemic hit, we're going to have a closing night extravaganza party. Who knows what it'll be like, but there'll be some songs and thoughts of fun and chatting. And so that's what's coming up, team. Is there anything that people should know, anything else you want people to know about? Like, do you have other appearances coming up you'd like them to come to or anything like that?
No, actually not that I can think of right now. It's kind of winding down a little bit for now. So yeah.
Well, good. And this was the most important one. So now
Yes.
that this is done, yeah. Well, I am super grateful to you for joining me, Juliet. I'm gonna close out with a song, but I'll let you not have to be watched while you listen, which is
Okay.
a sort of terrible situation to be in. But thank you for coming on my
Sweet.
show. I hope we get to see each other again soon and
Yes.
catch up more. I would love that.
Okay. Thank you
Okay.
so much for having me. And it was such a pleasure talking to you. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, yay. Me too. Bye, Latinitas, everybody. And I'll
Thank
have a good
you.
night, Juliet.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so oh my gosh, I just love her. So I'm gonna sing this closing song. I don't know why I have it in my head to sing this song, but oh, is there an email address for PayPal? Right. If you want to use, that's a great question, Jen. If you want to use the app, you have to have an email address. There is what the email address is. I just put it in the chat. You can go to the paypal.me if you're on an internet browser, but that should get you to that. That will work just fine. And just a reminder that all those tips, we give 10% to Raices, the organization that helps kids at the border. And then after that, we split. Julie and I split them. Okay. I don't know why I have it in my head to do this song, but I do. So I wrote this for a friend who's having a hard time. I sometimes always think that if a song comes into my head, it's because somebody needs to hear it. So if you, or maybe I do, maybe I'm the one. But if you're having a hard time, I get it. You were always skinnier than me, a willow in a field of rye. If the sun wasn't shining in your hair, I could always find it in your eyes. And you were always kinder than me, always kind to the lovesick boys. They looked at you like they would have danced all night, trying to turn the AC tap into the old Savoy. Now you're carrying that heavy stone. Oh, I know some roads you're gonna have to go alone. But remember how we drove each other home. Oh, you never wanted to cry to me. You never liked when the songs got sad. I never knew where all your shadows fell, or who you'd tell if the dreams went bad. And now you're carrying that heavy stone. Oh, I know some roads you're gonna have to go alone. But remember how we drove each other home. Yeah, yeah. You were always braver than me, better at walking through the woods in the dark. Through all those tripping trees you held my hand, till we fell into the full moon field with a thump in our hearts. Here in your year of fear and
So much you hold dear as taken for life. Oh, remember holding hands in that black night. And remember how we fell into the light. Hey. I know you're gonna fall into the light. You were always skinnier than me. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next week.
Katie Dahl.
Katie Dahl has friends.
Katie Dahl has friends.
Yeah.